Okay, hello self-healers. I would like to welcome you to this Fire Circle 003, and this is a very exciting moment to have all of you here. I see some of the new faces, and also I see some of our regular self-healers joining in this conversation as well. And we are getting used to these online sessions and becoming comfortable in this space. And truly speaking, we look forward to this moment to meet all of you and share this knowledge passionately with you and also co-create and reflect with all of you. So I am Fernando Hetiadra and I'm the founder of or the creator of Evolving Temple. We are addressing here how we incorporate healing and mind development using specific plant medicine, all the way from addressing concerns from depression to turning people's lives around. So for this, we use altered states of consciousness, as many of you are aware, and the plant medicine that we are talking about are the hallucinogenic plant medicine. So in other words, psychedelics. I would like to mention as we begin this conversation, these sessions are for education, reflection, and harm reduction purposes, and we do not promote illegal substance use in any way unless it is done in a legal setting and in geographical locations that it is legally available. And I also would like to share with you that at Evolving Temple, all our psychedelic intervention, otherwise the psychedelic application, happens in countries where they are legal. For an example, our beloved country where we offer these services are in Nepal mostly, and we also work in Netherlands and Austria. Right, so I would like to welcome all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So let's dive into this conversation. So please allow me to do a little bit of an introduction for those who are new to this space, joining us for the first time. As I mentioned, this is a storytelling session. So we will be sharing with you some of our experiences, as well as our passion with you. And if you might be in a journey of healing and thinking of mind development, we hope that this will be valuable to you. And the reason why we are doing these absolutely complimentary sessions is because, as you know, that around the world, mostly the developing countries are becoming more and more open to psychedelic therapy and healing. So it is important that as an organization who provide these interventions, to share with you knowledge so that everyone become educated, so that we can maximize the opportunities that we have within the psychedelic space and healing and mind development state with altered states. So this is an educational session, and we invite you to some reflection, and also we provide you ideas of harm reduction as well. And when we step into this conversation, I would like to share with you there is no such thing as right or wrong in any way, and also there is no any necessity for you to truly join the conversation. You're very welcome to become an observer and be in this space. And those who are joining us online, it's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for following us. And I also would like to share with you that these connections are linked. In other words, the reason why we provide this education in steps is in case if you are on a journey of using plant medicine for your development on a self-healing journey, we hope that some of these ideas may be valuable to you. And I am very excited to welcome you to this conversation today, because I would like to begin this storytelling session today with this interesting sharing of one of our guests to one of the fire circles. So when we had in-person fire circle in Bangkok, one of the individuals, very mindful, kind individual who joined us, said that it's very interesting. We go into healing spaces. There are healers, there are practitioners, therapists, and often they say that they have found emotional bliss and they are in a space of healing. And he says, as I associate them, that he finds out it's rather far from the truth. So it is truly important that we stand for what we are talking about, and we want to be congruent in this conversation. So follow us, and we invite you to witness the healing that is happening in us. When I say us, I have Jessica with me here, and I also have Lux. And if you have watched the previous sessions, you already know them. They are the first generation psychedelic practitioners or practitioners of psychedelic intervention and altered states of consciousness with Evolving Temple. And I think it is important that we share our journeys. The reason why we are here is because this magnificent possibility has created immense development in our lives. And I think it is important that we share our journeys first, and then we maintain that congruence in terms of what we stand for, that we walk the talk. So today, I am very proud to introduce you to Jess from the team, and she's going to share with her journey. She has a beautiful story to share with you and with us, and Lux will be the catalyst of this conversation today. And so we are Evolving Temple. What we do is providing psychedelic intervention in a very thoughtful, in a very mindful, prepared manner using 3 protocols: preparation protocol, application protocol, as well as integration protocol. Now, when we talk to individuals, we often hear them saying, I have experienced psychedelics, but I did not have any necessary development or value as such. So the reason is that when we prepare and when we integrate, that's when the true healing and development takes place. So this is a space for us to share with you how that can be done and how that is possible. So this is our fire circle number 3. So this conversation evolves around, are you who you think you are? So I invite you to a space of dissolving yourself today. Dissolving yourself today. What does that mean? That means truly breaking down who we truly are and trying to identify, are we what we really think who we are? And then I will invite you to a reflection of integrating those thoughts, and then I hope that this conversation will create some value for you. Now, as I dive into this conversation, I would also like to mention, in this space, I have been calling you a couple of times self-healers. Why did I call you self-healers? The reason is that we understand often when we find a dis-ease or unease in our body, we look for some kind of a quick band-aid or quick cure. And sometimes we even call ourselves healed after such short band-aids. But we are not necessarily in this space for those cure or the band-aid. What I mean by that is we are looking at higher level development as a human being or as a spiritual being in this space. So as I always mention, I invite you to the space of Shangri-La of your well-being. In other words, creating emotional bliss and creating spontaneous healing for yourself. I always would like to explain it in a way that no matter whether you have a dis-ease, unease, or even the ground underneath of you is shaking, you are in a space of mind where you have peace, you have created emotional bliss in a way that you remain as mountains strongly and facing life and seeing the magnificent possibility of transcendent love in this space. So I would also like to share with you, if you are new to this session, if you are watching 003s first, I invite you to first go watch the 001 and 2. The reason is that these conversations are evolving and we use the story, we connect the story from the previous sessions, right? So let's dive in today. Now, before we invite to hear the story from Jess today, I would like to get to know you a little bit, if you feel comfortable. If you feel like you don't want to speak, because we do understand there are certain restrictions in certain countries, you might not be able to come forward fully, and that's all right. In that case, you can say pass, and we will continue with the next person. So share with us what inspired to be in this reflection today. Who would like to go? Let's begin with Jess and Lux, and then we will invite everyone to share with us. Jess, why are you? What inspired you to be in this session today, apart from you're going to share the story with us?
My inspiration of being here is really just to share and continue to connect the dots as much as possible and spreading awareness of the the impact of plant medicine and how life-changing it really truly is, and all the work that goes on before and after, and how essential it is to the process. So that's my underlying reason, of course, and also to share my story today.
Thank you, Jess. Over to you, Lux, and then let's do a little popcorn.
Thank you, Fernando. Like Jess, I'm also here because of all the powerful sharings that come out of these conversations, and also I'm very excited to have this conversation with Jess. I know that we will all be able to learn so much from her journey, and also Fernando. I cannot get over these education sessions. It doesn't matter whether they are 2 hours long or 5 minutes long. They always add value to my life. So, and also I wanted to get to know everyone and also be inspired by them. So that's why I'm here today. And I am passing the mic to Rico.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here tonight. What inspires me to be here is to continue my self-healing process. We're all healing from some kind of trauma in our lives. And I have been on a journey of healing, and I'd love to learn more on how to make this even better and heal faster. Thank you. And popcorn to Olga.
Thank you. I am excited to join the circle. Honestly, I feel very foolish that I had the opportunity to join the first, second, but didn't, and just discovered the schedule. So I'm very, very happy to join you today, and yeah, I'm here with open mind and curiosity. I would love to know as much as possible and experience and just be part of this group. So I'm very, very excited, and would like to ask Letitia to continue.
Hi, my name is Leticia. I'm actually interested into understanding how the mind can be so powerful, and how we can harness the mind, whether or not psychedelic, or actually yeah, I'm now in Thailand, so which is legal, but this is not really my forte. So yeah, it's more about how the potential that we can reach, and the knowledge, and that we can share via different experiences that attract me. And I have to say, Fernando, you have a voice which is very, very attractive, a very beautiful accent that is joining onto the whole yeah, experience, I have to say. I'm gonna pass the mic to Camila.
Thank you, Letitia. Camila sent us a message here saying that you met me at the International Coaching Week session that I did, and then you said that you remember, and then you have been hearing the psychedelic journeys with us, and we understand, Camila, that you're not able to speak. That's all right. Letitia, thank you so much for your compliment, and I accept it with appreciation. And I also would like to share that it took me a long time to be able to open the mic and speak like this. I think that is one of the gifts that I received from psychedelics. I had this very strong, criticizing myself, but now I'm confident to be who I am truly in this space. And probably at some point you will see me crying, because I experienced so much love that I can't even contain in my body. So a little disclaimer, share the space with me, and I'm very comfortable doing that. And as we welcome all of you, I also see that Lonis is joining us. Lonis, would you like to share with us what inspired you to be here today? If you are in a space to speak, otherwise it's all right. Oh, it's Irini. Irini and also Lonis. Hi, Irini, how are you?
Hello, How are you? Nice to meet you. I have some troubles while connecting, so I'm connecting from another device. I lost the previous session, but I'm here now with you. Hello again, all of you. So I will be prepared for a few minutes to contribute a little later. Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you for joining us, Irene. And we actually recorded the circle 2, and we will share it soon with all of you. Let's check in with Lonnie if you are in a space to speak. If not, it's all right. Okay, great. In case if you can speak later, come forward and feel free to share with us your thoughts and what inspires you to be here. Right, so let's dive in to maximize your time here. So we're going to do this session in 3 steps today. The first step would be I'm going to walk you through a little bit of a psychedelic education, or actually it's almost like what Letitia was talking about. More than psychedelic, let's talk about a little bit about our mind. And then let's talk about the dissolving of ourselves and try to understand what do I really mean by are you who you think you really are? And then we will invite Jess and Lux to share their story, and I'm very excited for that. So self-healers, as I was mentioning earlier, so we are in a space of creating healing and development in a way, not just looking at creating a band-aid. We are talking about creating that Shangri-La for ourselves, Shangri-La of our mind, a state of being. So for this, we need to understand that it's not these band-aids that we receive often is either medicine or a doctor or a healer. So it's almost like looking for the healing outside of us. So the reason why I call you self-healers is because I believe if you would like to find the best state of your mind, the most peaceful state of mind, where you can remain as mountain ranges, the healing journey needs to truly begin within ourselves. So in other words, you become your own healer in this journey. So please allow me to call you self-healers, because we do not identify ourselves as healers in any way. We are truly practitioners who intervene your mind development through plant medicine using altered states of consciousness. Right. So what is our learning component today? We discussed in our last session something very interesting. We looked at our mind, and of course, when we say our mind, the first thing that comes to our mind is the brain. But we know that the brain is a very limited understanding if you want to express about our mind. We know that we have neurons in our brain, and there's this beautiful electromagnetic pulses that move towards them, move inside our brain, connecting our whole body, every cell in our body, so that we can be aware, we can operate in this 3D world, as I always say. And we realize that if we try to understand how our mind works through neurotransmitters, how they pulse, actually we are very limited. For us to understand science and also for us to maximize our band-aids that I was talking about, the cure. The cure is important, absolutely important. We do not neglect that in any way, but cure is not necessarily the real healing. That's what we address. So in order for us to create cure, it's important that we understand science. So we absolutely acknowledge and incorporate science into these conversations, and we also incorporate the developmental neuroscience as well as the Buddhist meditation practice Vipassana, which is observation or seeing, which is the reflective component of this conversation. So now, having said that, I would like to invite you to a new idea of how to look at our mind, like a disco ball, but more like an inverted disco ball. Now, this conversation we had last week, so we invite you to check out the Fire Circle 002. Right. So as we talk more about looking at mind as an inverted disco ball or inverted mirror, right? Mind as a mirror, we know that there are thoughts, feelings, memory, sensations, sensory, inner sensory, epigenetic memory, lots of things that occur into our mind. And we know that once we accept those thoughts into our mind, they start bouncing inside of our mind. So this is a new concept, inviting you to create clarity, or it's inviting you to observe your mind in a way as an inverted mind mirror where your thoughts are bouncing, most unfortunately sometimes without any control, right? One of my friends recently said that she's planning to write a book called Wake Up Before You Die. She said her book she would write name is Wake Up Before You Die. What does that mean? Sometimes throughout our life, we are autopiloted. We are driven by our emotions, circumstances around us, and sometimes we don't take a step back truly to understand and become aware of what is going on in our magnificent mind. What are the possibilities when we become aware of our mind that we can create development for ourselves? Now, when I share my screen, self-healers, I do not see any of you. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them on the chat box. Right, and then you also see this in this image, there's an eye, the observer, right? So the invitation for you here in this space is to observe yourself. What thoughts come into your mind? What feelings come into your mind? And how do they interact with each other? How do they create these interesting reflections or thoughts inside, feelings inside of our mind? And then how do they bounce around? And we also understand that, interestingly, sometimes when a thought occurs, we have it for a minute, we have it for an hour. Sometimes it can go on for a year, fully uncontrolled, without realizing that we are fully processing those thoughts, feelings, and all those things in our mind, right? So one of the things that we discussed last week is that sometimes you are in a specific state, like hunger, right? And then we discussed with the hunger, if there was a little bit of a confrontation from another person, we become a little bit frustrated. So the hunger and frustration get together, and some people call it hanger, right? Hunger and anger together. And then if you are now faced with a different situation, now what was happening to you actually create your next round of those bouncing thoughts, bouncing reflections that is going on in your head. So in other words, we are starting to realize that as a human being, as we are aware of ourselves, that if we really start observing ourselves, that we go between states. We go between states. For this, let us look at ourselves a little bit clearer. Now, we often hear the two words, emotions and feelings. Emotions and feelings. And I always hear this almost like with the same connotation, almost like they are the same thing. Now, in this journey, if you're preparing for mind development through altered states, it's really important that you understand the distinguish to distinguish them. The reason is that observation becomes clear when you understand some of these words that we are using. Often we use a lot of words that we don't even know the real meaning of. So here's a little example. I invite you to test this out later. I invite you to take a piece of paper and write down what you think is compassion. What you think is compassion. And then do a little Google search and see what it means. You will be surprised what the the dictionary definition is for compassion, for an example. It invites us to openness. It invites us to places that challenges what we know. So this is a space that I would like to invite you to clarify. What are these words that we are using? The clearer they become, the clearer our journey becomes to Shangri-La of state of being. Right. So addressing emotions, scientifically, it can be explained in many ways. So incorporating some science and also in a way that I can explain it to you easily, I would like to say emotions are motion. Emotion, motion. Electrical motion, in other words. We are electrical pulses all the time, as you know, right? If you go down to the photons, that is creating this possibility as for us to be human beings, for us to have this beautiful, magnificent blue planet with the life that is in it, the trees, animals, insects, fungi, ourselves, all these possibilities thanks to the photons we receive from sun, right? So once we absorb these photons, this energy, how do they react in our body? They react in electrical pulses inside of us, right? So when we truly look at them, they are the motion that is happening in our body. Now we know that we have a lot of outer senses. You're looking at me, so the eyes and your nose, your skin, your hearing, all those outer senses that we are used to. And then we have inner senses. When you want to urinate, you have a specific type of sense coming from your body, so that you would like to pass urine. Or when you are feeling hungry, you have a specific sensation that you receive from your body. So these are sensory as well, internal sensory, inner sensory. And then we also have other interesting type of things. Like for an example, if I may say, have you seen the muscle reflexes of cats or kittens from North America? They have never seen actual snakes, but if you placed a cucumber next to them, they haven't seen snakes for generations, North American cats in specific parts of the world, right? But if you placed a cucumber, they have these muscle reflexes which throw them automatically from that cucumber. They get really quickly afraid, and it's not even a conscious thinking. It's subconsciously controlled. Why? Let me stop for a second. Why is that? Right? The reason is that the cats who have experienced danger through cucumber-like, very common, yes, the snake, right? Yeah, so that information is stored in the cat's body in epigenetics, and that's passed on to the generation after generation after generation. So the cat has that very strong muscle reflexes when it identifies with potential danger, although it really truly does not know what that means. So there are some other senses that we are talking about. So almost sound like trauma, right? So we start to understand that trauma is in a way for our safety. Trauma is passed on to us through our generations to truly love us. So your great-grandmother, when she had some moment of trauma herself, right? Her intelligence, her body intelligence, her mind intelligence decided to store that in her DNA so that it can pass on to offsprings. It can pass on to you so that you can act upon that situation more safely, right? So our bodies are beautiful, beautiful creations that we can have so much in us that we use our the emotion to tap into all of these bodily senses, motion that is happening in our body. So let's say all the triggers, all the sensory that create electrical pulses and that start to communicate within our body as emotions. And then I invite you to look at the next image, and you see a clear brain there. So when these emotions reach our brain and our body, now we start to change our state. Right? Now that is what is very common in the nature. When we are faced with danger, fight and flight response. Right? If it is a danger that we are faced with in our body, we have certain hormones being released, certain chemicals like adrenaline being released, bringing us to safety, increasing our heartbeat, so we can we can get ourselves to safety soon as possible, right? So we start to understand that once when these emotions are reacting in our body, we start to now consciously engage. Using our limbic system, we process our emotions, and then we have a neocortex, which is the thinking part, the logical part, and now it comes together, and then it creates certain awareness, certain thoughts, and then especially feelings. Feelings, the two words that we associate, emotions and feelings. So the feelings are kind of the mental image that what we make out of what is happening, the motion that is happening in our body. When there's a motion happening in our body, we create this awareness, mental, that is not tangible, right? I feel a certain way. Can you touch a feel? You only can feel it, right? So that we do create feelings, and then feelings lead us to moods. Sometimes we wake up in the morning and we say, I'm not in the mood to get out of the bed. Sometimes we don't even know. Maybe some unconscious sensory epigenetics told us something in the morning, or something was happening in our brain as you were sleeping. So a mood, set of feelings in combination, a mood had been created. When the moods are created in such a way, we understand that the moods lead us to actions. I don't want to get out of bed. Not getting out of bed is an action. Or I feel amazing this morning, I want to go for jogging. Action. And then if you are in Thailand, you go out of jogging, and as you go down, it's impossible for you not to find the grilled pork and sticky rice. Now, new emotions are created. Your nose smelled the grilled sticky rice. We call it mooping in Thailand, mooping. So we find those the grilled rice, and then we create a new set of sensory that is taking place. And now we have a new feeling in our mind, leads to an action, maybe for breakfast, let me buy mooping, right? So it's an interesting cycle, as you can notice. It brings us to states. It changes who we are every now and then. Now you are starting to see the connection. Are you who you think you are? We have an identity. I know myself as Fernando. Do you know yourself as someone, certain identity, certain associations? And we confirm that identity. And when we operate in this 3D world, we are very hard on ourselves. This is my identity. I shouldn't change. I should behave in a specific way. But then the truth is truly far from that, isn't it? The truth truly is that we change ourselves all the time at an electromagnetic level. If we change at an electromagnetic level, that means we are changing ourselves at a molecular level. So that means we are changing at a photon level, always transferring, always fluid. And I invite you to recognize that. I invite you to truly think, am I who I am that I'm saying? I am that compassionate person. I am that person with emotional bliss. Or am I a state that requires effort to maintain? Questions. There is no right or wrong answers. I do not even know those things fully. It's what it is to you. How does that make sense to you? Right? So now moving forward, now that we clearly understand the emotions are the electrical motion in our body, feelings are the mental image that we create, which leads us to what we want to do, the actions. And as a result, which creates that cycle of what happens to us. Right. So moving forward, I would like to invite you to look at this ourselves as states every millisecond, right? Every minute, every hour. We are different. We are new. We keep changing ourselves, right? You see something, you change. And cats change even like we touch electricity, we get changed, right? Immediately. So we change our states all the time. Sometimes we get into a situation that we lose our temper. And then we later on feel this guilt in us. Oh, I am not that person. I shouldn't feel that way. Why shouldn't we feel like that way? If there's an emotion in our body, and then if it can create a set of feelings, why would that not be possible? Why don't we become kind to ourselves and accept it, right? So I invite you to think, are you who you think you are? Who are you right now? Who were you an hour before? Who were you when you interacted with the person you love? Who were you when your meal didn't arrive on the table in time in the restaurant? Who were you when you missed the bus? Who were you when you had this sexual urge last time? Were you driven by those emotions, feelings, thoughts that is going on in your mind mirror, that is bouncing back and forth? Let's say you were sexually charged. You were feeling that you would like to experience sexual energy. Let's say somehow you were not able to. Whatever the reasons, your partner wasn't around, or you do not have a partner. How long did that keep you occupied in your mind? And what does that do to you? For an example, right? So we are states. I'm inviting you to recognize that if you resonate with me. Now with that, I would like to invite you to something very important in this journey that we should focus on, which is dissolving ourselves. Now, when we begin to dissolve ourselves, I would like to invite you to go back in time, when your awareness popped up. When was that? The awareness popped up. Probably in your mom's womb, isn't it? You become aware for the first time in your mom's womb, right? That means you have a body. In order for you to become aware, you need to have a body, right? I mean, in this 3D world, we need to have a body to become aware. So with your body, which is a gift from your parents and your grandparents and your ancestors, that they stored information, that they stored trauma, that they evolved themselves, that you can be who you are, right? Isn't that magnificent? You get set of DNA from your dad, and then you get set of DNA from your mom, and then with this beautiful creative energy, you become a person. You become a body. And with that, you become aware, right? So let's fast forward a little bit. Now you have a body. When you have a body, you have information that was shared with you from your parents. In combination, you start forming yourself. And often, it's even uncomfortable to sometimes look at our parents and recognize ourselves in them, right? So we clearly see where the DNA came from, where the behavior came from, where the epigenetics are playing a role in us, right? So that body, beautifully created. And as I say that, you realize that we have very little choosing in our body, isn't it? Very little choosing in our body. The choosing that what we do with our body right now. Do I want to exercise and be healthy? Or do I not? That is the choosing we have with our body. Can I color my hair blue or white? Or can I grow my nails? That's the control we truly have with our body. But we inherited this body. It wasn't necessarily a choice in this 3D awareness, right? So when we have our body, we received it from our parents. So not your choosing. Again, are you who you think you are? If it was chosen for you, this whole idea that you have for yourself, I am this person, I am this, right? Sometimes you're also a little bit like that, which is okay, not a problem, right? So we are interestingly gifted this beautiful body that we have. So I invite you to bring your attention to that. And one of the things, actually, one of the self-healers who's here, Rico, shared with me is that when her baby was born, Rico, would you like to share that insight? When your baby was born, what did she do with her hands?
Yeah, I caught her looking at her hands as if it's an outside object, like as if it's something else. And she would keep looking at it and trying to touch it. And then she will be, wow, I can touch this and feel it at the same time. And then she would just put it in her mouth or so. So this made me aware that she has not developed a sense of her own body yet. Like she's exploring what her limits are, what her body, what her surroundings are. How different is it? Is this part of her, of me? Where does the world start and where does her body end? So yeah, it was fascinating to see a baby doing this. It's like developing awareness for the first time.
Beautiful, Rico. Thank you for sharing that beautiful story with us. And yeah, it's very true, right? When a baby is born for the first time, when I say baby is born, I'm actually thinking of you. When you were born, you did that too. Not only Rico's baby, right? You find out all of a sudden, oh, I have hands. Oh, I have legs. And then you start to realize that you have a body. When you become aware, when you open your eyes, when your senses, when your emotions are in motion, you're able to recognize that you have a body. So for the first time in our life, we find out, oh, we have a body. After we were born, after we were given to our mom's hand, when we open our eyes in that space, we find out that we have a body. And this body was given to us. We have no choice. Right? And then, as a result of that, now that you're born with a mother and a father, you are associated with them immediately, right? Like your body was given to you, you had no choice, conscious choice, let me say, to choose your parents, but you are immediately associated with them. Not only that, you have a skin color, you have a hair color, you have an eye color, and you are born on a specific geographical location to specific parents, those who have nationalities that we call nationalities, so that all of a sudden we identify ourselves with associations. This is my mom. This is my dad. My name is Fernando. And you see, my dad, my mom, my name were given to me, unless I decided to change it now, right? So they were given to me. I was associated. It wasn't my choice to decide my name to be Fernando. It wasn't my decision to have my current parents, right? All of you as well. So in other words, what happens, we are starting to form an identity. We start creating an identity and association. We are starting to recognize that I need to identify myself with a nationality. I need to identify myself with my friends, the language I speak. And language is a huge influence on us. Based on the language we speak, our personalities start to form. Right? Now in Thailand, I always say this as an example. Thai people are highly emotionally intelligent. They provide great care when they communicate with each other. And then if you look at certain other cultures, it's not the same. It's not right or wrong. It's a way of living, right? The reason is that we form our identity based on our associations that we have created around us. So that is what brings us to recognize at this point of time. Again, right? Sometimes you say, no, I don't do that. No, that is not my value. That is out of my belief system. What is this my belief system? What is this my values? Where did they come from? Of course, some part of your conscious awareness and some part of your associations, right? Actually, you have full control over those things that you created for yourself in terms of your identity and association. I wonder. Most of the time, the identity and association is heavily influenced from outside. In fact, as human beings, or as beings, as creatures, let me say, that even when I'm focusing on this conversation right now, I have part of my brain that is peripherally scanning the environment for danger. So if there's anything, it will alert me immediately. And I might even fall down from this chair if something like that happened without my control. So you see, sometimes what is happening to us, we have very little control. Now, when we are always being influenced by emotions, feelings that we create, and the actions that lead us to a new set of feelings and emotions and all that, right? Again, we should ask the question, am I whom I think I am? Because if emotions influence me, feelings influence me, actions lead me to be influenced, then I keep changing. So at this moment, whom I think I am changes in a second or even a millisecond. Now, this is all possible if we are aware. If we are aware, right? That there is this awareness that right now, come to think of it, right? Let's do a little reflection. Come to think of it. Can you think of your forehead? You can. Can you? Your hands? You can. Can you press your tiptoes on the floor? You can. You're aware and you're probably listening to me, watching me. And you may have certain somatic sensations in your body. Like, what is your heart right now? How does your magnificent heart feel like? How did you feel last time when you wanted to urinate? Right? You see, the awareness. We are aware. We know that this is possible. What a beautiful possibility. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, if I wasn't born, to me, the universe doesn't really exist. And maybe we are not in this space right now. Right? Because we are aware. So to me, it's almost like this entire universe lies within me. Because if I'm not present to this awareness, I don't know that this exists. And that is also interesting. So if we lose our body, we lose our awareness immediately. Of course, if we lose our body, we lose our identity and associations, unless it's in other people's mind. So awareness is actually the key for us to be in this space. But now there's this interesting piece right in the middle that is not yet visible. So I invite you to think about, in dissolving ourselves, we are dissolving our body, we are dissolving our identity and association, and we are also dissolving our awareness. Or in other words, let's say isolating. We isolate them, provide vision to it. And as we do that, what development is taking place in you? How does that empower you? That's the important question, right? That's the preparation for the altered states, so that you become fully aware that you are, am I who I think I am? Am I who I say I am? This is the invitation. Now, in order for me to invite you to think about this middle part, I would like to show you a little example. Please don't be disheartened. Now, if these two are identical twins, as you see, if these two are identical twins, let's think about the moment they were born. Just that moment they were born. They have a body, an association is being formed. Now they are aware. If they are identical twins, at this point of time, they are quite identical in who they are, almost same, except for what happened in the womb individually to them. So even then, there are differences to us. We are still unique. Even if we are identical twins, we are still unique, interestingly. But let's look at it at the surface level now. And if I invited you to think, what if one of those twins were born dead? Right? One is alive, one is dead. So now, what would that be then? That part that is holding us together. Because if one twin is dead, the twin doesn't have a body anymore. It's already decomposing. It's part of Earth. It's a composition of different chemicals, compounds, truly. Right? If something is dead, it's part of Earth. We know that. And identity and association doesn't matter anymore. Why? Because there's no awareness, and there's no point. So now I'm curious to invite you, what is this middle component holding it together, holding all of these things together? Any thoughts?
Could it be the soul?
Interesting, right? Could it be the soul? Great thought, Rico. Any other thoughts? And we hear consciousness. Consciousness is very close to awareness, isn't it? Consciousness is being aware if you break it down. So awareness includes some of the consciousness. Great answers. So consciousness, soul, what else? Okay, now this is a complicated question, and also there is no right or wrong answer to it. In fact, I don't even know the right answer to it, to be very honest with you. But I would like to call it a simple term as life energy. Life energy, right? I try not to attach a known word to it, because then we could be misled by our own definition of that, like soul, for an example, right? It's a beautiful word. And people understand soul differently from one person to other. So because of that reason, I acknowledge that answer. I think it's a great answer. Consciousness, I acknowledge that answer, great answer, because people have different connotations and definitions. Let's think about the life energy is holding us together. Because if you look at the two twins, one of them has life energy, the other one doesn't have life energy. So there is no awareness, so there is no body, so there is no identity or associations to the twin, him or herself or themselves, right? So let's say the life energy keeps us bound together to be aware of our own body, identity, and associations. Of course, self-healers, this doesn't end here. This can be blown in an array of thoughts. So for an example, what if I just told you the word time? All of a sudden, a new dimension is introduced to life energy. And time, for an example, how the time operates on Earth, because we have a sun, right? Because we go around the sun for 365 days with a little tilt, we have beautiful seasons, and we say we get old every year, one year old. Now, this is only possible on Earth, right? If I pull you out to the universe, put you out there, you're not going to be able to relate time in comparison to our sun and our planet moving around of it. So all of a sudden, there's a new awareness that the time starts to create a new awareness to ourselves, right? So like that, these are just the basic components of understanding and isolating who we are. But I believe if you go deeper and deeper, and if you reflect further and further, use vipassana or reflection on ourselves, see ourselves for who we truly are. And I love to say it like this: if we are aware of our mental qualities, if we become more and more aware of our mental qualities, we are starting to see who we truly are. And that truly is also, interestingly, the states that we keep changing all the time. Now, with that, I would like to end this little education session today by asking a question. With this reflection, that we can isolate ourselves like that, what opportunity do you have? What opportunity do you see in terms of your development in this 3D world, in this hostile 3D world that we live in? What are your opportunities when you recognize that you can isolate yourself and realize that you were given a body? Most of your identity and association were also imposed on you naturally, or sometimes unnaturally. And then you have an awareness, and we are in different degrees aware to ourselves. We all are. There's no right or wrong way. When I say that some people will live a life of not being aware, I'm not saying it's wrong in any way. Not at all. It's where you want to be. It's where your awareness wants to be. In my personal understanding, I want to be more aware of who I am and what I'm doing, my states, and how I develop through this understanding. Some people, it's not important, and that's perfectly fine, right? We don't have problem. Okay, so coming back to the question, with this reflection, what opportunity do you see? Oh, Camila said there is really only now, the awareness, right? So then the time and awareness also has an interesting connection. You see, we have so many degrees how we can break things down. Thank you for that very high level thinking, Camila. Wonderful. So please, self-healers, we are trying to keep it at a surface level because we have newcomers and absolutely new to this space. So we are going really slow, and we are very happy and delighted when you share some high-level awareness, such as that we only have now. Time is a construct. How beautiful. Thank you, Camila. Right. So that is now one of the awarenesses that is coming to us. That is one of the opportunities that we have through this reflection. What other opportunities do we have for here, right now, to live and lead an inspired life? Live and lead a life of success, abundance, And one of the things that I would like to share with you is that I mentioned earlier in one of the sessions, I like to look at our being as spiritual, right? So for this existence, spiritual being of us, what opportunity do you have?
To be whatever you want to be and can change at any given time.
That is related to what Jess is going to be talking about. So Jess, thank you for bringing that very simple awareness. Of course, I was kind of looking for this answer. Thank you, Jess, but not the right answer. There are a million answers to this question. You have a million opportunities or more opportunities than that with this kind of reflection that we can create for ourselves, right? So we are starting to realize that when we realize that we are operating in a given body, which we are aware of, and then we are also operating in a space of that we are an actually association and an identity. Like Jess said, we can decide to change that identity to a certain extent anytime we need, which means that if we have an identity, I am depressed. Okay, that's an identity. And that's the construct that is happening in us. And the more we realize, we can break down what depression means and look at it at a deeper level to realize, is there a chance that I can change this identity or association? Not just that, just pretty much anything about you can be changed. So you can decide to wake up tomorrow morning, change, which means I believe this kind of reflections provide us opportunity to isolate ourselves in a way that tomorrow morning, you wake up and you decide, I change. And this change we are talking about in every level, spiritually, as a holistic being, embodying wealth, embodying health, embodying who you truly are, embodying emotional bliss, embodying healing, embodying pretty much everything in our existence, right? So I invite you to reflect on the fact that we can at any time, any given moment, remember that we are an identity, an association, so that we can change. We don't have to be always that that I am this Fernando. In fact, one of the reasons why I was afraid of making this kind of video, thinking, oh, I know in 6 months I'm going to change my awareness, then I'll be a different person. So I shouldn't make the video. So in that case, I will never create any value. So now I have come to understand and agree. I'm going to say what I know today. In 6 months, I'll find myself like a fool. And I go like, okay, was a different awareness, wasn't it? But I have reinvented myself. I have decided to create an identity for myself, which is valuable to me, right? So with that, I would like to invite all of you to the conversation with Lux and Jess. So Lux, would you like to go ahead and invite Jess to this conversation? Let's learn about Jess.
Thank you, Fernando, for the education piece and also the powerful sharing and also this opportunity. Hi, Jess. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. So thank you for being here, sharing your story with us today. Now, that being said, I know your story is quite extraordinary. So without taking any more time, we would love to hear from you. How did your journey with psychedelics start?
Oh, thank you, Lex, for the question. And I'm super excited to share my experience on this journey, which has been interesting and it's still not over. So I'll start off by answering that question. My experience with psychedelics, how it got started. Well, I was fortunate enough to grow up with two very open-minded parents, and gladly they instilled enough confidence in myself and my brothers to make our own judgments. And music also has a lot to do with my story. I grew up, my parents were quite on the hippie-ish side, if you will. And music was always a driving force in our house. It is what truly connected our family. If you take everything else away, that is still to this day our deepest connection is through music. So we grew up listening to, other very open-minded artists, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Pink Floyd, that kind of stuff. And as I grew up and got into my late teenage years, I, understood that a lot of the culture behind that type of music had a lot to do with psychedelics. And I also remember hearing my dad talking about, his experiences, and naturally the people I was surrounded by, like my friends, also, had those kinds of parents as well. So we decided to experiment. We decided to try ourselves. So we were comfortable enough to do it. We felt we had the confidence, and we knew, even though we didn't really talk about it, actually, we knew that we were there for each other. And so at the prime age of 17 years old, I dosed for the first time psilocybin. And it was probably one of the most magical, life-changing experiences that I've ever had that first time. And mind you, I didn't go into this with any sort of preparation or integration process or anything. I just happened to understand that, it can make you feel things and see things. And everybody that I heard about and knew, they always seemed so relaxed after their experiences. They always seemed to be so open and understanding and accepting, and that really attracted me. I grew up in Los Angeles, and it was it still is a crazy place. People say like, oh, it's a wonderful place, but it's also a very, very challenging place. A lot of chaos and intensity, and just, it's not a place that I would recommend to raise children, to be honest. But yeah, so we did our first dosage when I was 17 with some friends, and because it was sort of taboo at that time, we only knew that we could get away with it by going to a place that was quite secluded and at nighttime, so that we wouldn't get caught, right? And I'm so glad that now the conversations are opening up so much more to psychedelics, that we don't have to feel shame or feel scared or have fear around them, because they're not necessarily dangerous. It's all about being ready for these experiences. Maybe I can't fully say that I was ready for it, but I was confident enough to understand and process it. And I have to say that still to this day, this is now 17, 18 years ago, those experiences that I had with psychedelics, they still affect me today. They still impact who I am today. I still call on those experiences to understand certain things in my life. And I had my first dose when I was 17, and since then I've done many, many ceremonies from then up until just several months ago. So it's been a quite regular thing for me in my life. And I've always found that I always used to call it my discovery drug, because every single time I went somewhere on the journey, I came back and I just had this deep, deep understanding of everything around me, all the world. I mean, I have experienced feeling the earth breathing. I mean, that feeling alone, like being so deeply connected, laying your face on the beach and feeling the pulse of the earth, it's unreal. And when you are so connected to something like that, I mean, it really just shifts your whole perspectives. It takes away all the things that you thought you knew about, with the things within arm's reach are not really the things that matter all the time. And so that awareness that I created for myself at such a young age have really, really, really pushed, really motivated my feelings today about psychedelics and who I am. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Thank you, Jess. And it does sound like such a wonderful experience. And I'm thinking what a privilege it is to be exposed to such powerful plant medicine at such a young age, and also seeing who you are now and seeing what you're doing with your life, it's truly inspiring. So truly being inspired by what you're doing and witnessing all the work that you're doing with this plant medicine to help lots of people around you. I'm curious to know, how did you first discover your calling to practice as a psychedelic practitioner?
Well, thank you for that question. So there were several significant experiences, but I would like to share two experiences to what part of the reason that brought me here today. So when we say psychedelics, we in plant medicine, we are talking about psilocybin, and there are other, powerful psychedelics such as DMT and LSD. So I will also share a quick LSD story as well. So I was with a group of friends, and we had dosed LSD, and in the midst of the same park where we'd also experimented with psilocybin, my friends and I were in our journey, in our trip, if you will, and we were having a great time, and like my mind was so completely broken open that anything could have been possible in that moment. And I got a phone call from another friend of mine, and he said, "I really need to talk to you. I just found out my grandfather's dying." And I said, "Okay, well, I'm at the park, and I need to tell you that I am under the influence of LSD at the moment, but you're more than welcome to come and sit with me." And an hour later, he showed up, and I remember sitting on the swings with him in the park, and he sat with me sharing all these memories about his grandfather. He was crying, he was upset, he was having difficulty processing the situation. And I just remember sitting there with him and just like literally can see myself holding the space for him, like holding this gentle, warm space for him, because even if I was conscious of it or not, my subconscious knew that that's what he needed from me in that moment. And I gave it because I wanted to give it. I gave him that space because I truly, deeply wanted to give it to him. And so I supported him through the conversation, and the night ended. And the next day, my friend that was there as well, who was also under the influence of LSD, called me, and he said, "Jess, I don't know how you were able to sit with someone and talk about death and talk about such intense feelings." And I just kind of said, I just felt really comfortable in that space. It really felt very natural to me to be this strong mother tree for my friend in that moment. And then I started, I didn't think too much about it. It just sort of sat with me for a while. And then a few years later, one of my brothers suffers from very severe bipolar disorder and depression. And we have a very, very, very difficult relationship. But I knew that maybe perhaps this could be something that would help him. And so I said to him, "Do you want to go on a psilocybin journey with me?" And he agreed. It was probably one of the first times that I ever saw my brother like really truly smile through the experience, really truly just let go and be himself. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to witness. So much so that we walked back to our home and we both went to our mother. Bless her. We walked in and, "Mom, we just took mushrooms a little while ago. And we just want to tell you that we love you so much." And we sat on the bed with her and just hugged her. And my mom, she understood, right? She understood the situation. She wasn't upset or anything at all. But the impact that was created from my brother, like putting his complete guard down and really, really just letting his emotional self be without any regard to, what happened before, what's going to happen after. And then years went on, and the bipolar disorder became, it was still there. It was still a process. So he had to take medication for it and whatnot. And every single time I remember that he said, I just am going through it. I'm having a really terrible time. And hey, maybe it's time for another psilocybin journey. And I would say that, based on clinical studies that have been done, so much healing has come from plant medicine, and a lot of it happens very quickly, depending on the severity of somebody's condition. So every once in a while, I have to remind my brother, okay, it might be time for another trip, might be time for another journey, when he gets into those very low, dark levels. But it has helped him to accept a little bit more about who he is and his own disorder or dis-ease, if you will. So every single time I think about that moment and seeing him smile and cry on that, we were on a football field actually, and I saw him he's listening to music, and every single time I think about how difficult my relationship with my brother is, I always go back to that moment and remember that a lot of the things that we experience, a lot of our diseases, our disorders, we didn't choose to be those ways. And when you're in a situation when you see somebody, completely let go of that, it gives you the sense of relief. Like, okay, I know there's someone else in there, but it's difficult when it's something that is hard to beat without the help of medicine or therapy, for example. Yeah. So sorry, there's one more thing I would like to add to that. Part of the reason that I am here today also, it's sort of all of those moments of my brother and my friend and all of the impact that it made on me. It brought me so much clarity. It brought me so much understanding of my own abilities, my own understanding of the world. And all of that motivated my open-mindedness, my creativity so much. Like for me, every single person is a completely different person to me. I never group people into a category. I don't care where you're from, what color your skin is, who you are. I do not care about that. My creativity allows me to see the difference in each and every single person. And with that ability to understand that, I feel that my space today of supporting people on their psychedelic journeys really for me, it's very much connected. Like why I can work with people who are from all different walks of life, all different ages, because for me, like my openness that was cultivated through my psychedelic experiences, just there's no filter, there's no boundary, there's nothing. It's just, it is what it is. Let's go.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. And I'm very glad that your brother got to experience this with you, the power of this medicine. And also it's amazing to hear how you hold that space for your friend and for your brother while you are also going through a self-exploration. It's not always easy. And also knowing you and knowing your creative capacity. I also often hear just that you talk about the import, especially that you mentioned creativity and how you harness that power to develop your creativity. So because you mentioned a couple of times when we were talking earlier, the importance of functioning from a clear mind and appreciating the full capacity of your brain. I'm curious to know, how do you connect your psychedelic experiences within you and with everyone you have helped so far, and these powerful learnings with creativity?
Thank you for that question. Actually, one of the things that I always try to highlight is the beauty that you feel, that you see, the feeling, the love that you experience during your psychedelic treatments. Excuse me, guys. I am constantly in awe of the capacity of our brain. Like, I cannot, every day I'm like, thank you, brain, for being so cool and so awesome that you have created this beauty around me, the way that I perceive things, the things that I have seen. I mean, for me, it goes down to just the tiniest little minute details of, the crack in the ground looks like a character from a movie. I mean, that's the level of like little tiny details that I'm constantly seeing all the time. So to answer the rest of the question, how it connects to creativity, well, I'm going to go back to the mind mirror. So in Fire Circle 002, Fernando shared about the mind mirror and how it works. And we saw a little bit of it on the slide. Things go in and they bounce around and they start to create more thoughts. And depending on the quality of things that are going in, depending on your own state of mind, those things will bounce around, and it will be a domino effect into other thoughts, whether it be good, bad, positive, negative. So I like to take the mind mirror in my creative process, and I will only share a little bit about my creative process. My creative process is how I visualize it. So I go into my mind mirror and I bring in the thought, the idea. And instead of just letting it bounce around freely, I intentionally push it into the reflections, to the different places of the mirror. I essentially am following that thought. And those mirrors, those panels of mirrors that my thoughts are bouncing around in, I've chosen those panels. I've chosen what is going to be the reflecting in my own mind mirror. And I push it. And I might kick it. Imagine like standing in the middle of a inverted disco ball, kicking around a ball to where you want it to go, right? So that's my little version of myself is in there doing that. And I can kick it fast, I can kick it slow, I can push it hard, I can push it to the top, I can push it down to the bottom. And then finally, when I've gathered enough information from all of the mirror panels, I then visualize the thought suspending in the center of my brain, in the mind mirror. And I walk around that idea. So many of my friends have always told me, you have this ability to look at things from a 360 point of view, right? Where elaborate on things. Like somebody says, oh, I only see this side. Well, okay, let me help you see many other sides of this. So the thought is suspended, and the little version of me inside my brain is walking around, looking at the reflections, looking at the idea from all sides. And when the idea is fully formed and ready, then I bing, I flick it, and then it goes, and then it comes out. So I 100% can say with full confidence that I would not be able to follow my thought this complexly if it wasn't for the way that my mind has been impacted by plant medicine. Like I feel like so I often say, like, when we're dreaming, right? And when I wake up, I often feel like I'm cheating on myself, because I feel like I'm living another life in my dreams. I wake up like, where was I? Right? And sometimes the dreams come into my daily life also, and it creates like all these other worlds throughout my day. And again, I learn from them. I use them, I process them that way. That's how I process my dreams. Like they make an appearance. Like it's almost like I live somewhere else when I'm asleep. That's really what it feels like. And all of those things that happen to me in my dreams, or in deep creative thoughts, and even creative meditation, the way that I visualize it, the way that it makes me feel, the way that I integrate it into my life, I directly attribute that to plant medicine. And one of the things I will say is, when I first dosed psilocybin when I was 17 years old, and all the other times after that, up until the last few years when I started to become more educated on preparation and integration, I I first initially was like, oh, maybe I'm not going to be able to, maybe those experiences don't matter anymore. Maybe I need to have new psychedelic experiences. Guys, it's not too late. It's really not too late to prepare to integrate. I mean, you could analyze your experience before the psychedelics that you took many years ago, and you can still integrate to this day. And I feel that happening to me every single day, all those experiences from the past constantly integrating into my life all the time. So it's really never too late for anybody who is curious to try or did try before and didn't have a good experience, for example. And that's something else I'd like to talk about too, the experiences and how important it is to be in the right space and filled with, love and safety. So.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. And also that's really my next question. I was thinking the importance of having a safe space in the right setting, because earlier in previous sessions, Fernando also talked about the preparations, application, and integration, and especially when it comes to application process, Fernando talks about the importance of set and setting, and you are also saying the same thing. So now coming back to that, talking about the importance of having safe space and the right setting for the ceremony and how it enables your creative abilities, please tell us more about it. How is it for you?
Okay, well, before I tell how is it for me, I want to give an example. So if you ever talk to anybody who's done psychedelics in the past, or even if you read about it or watch documentaries or films or anything, sometimes you hear people say good trip and bad trip. And there's only one reason for a bad trip, for a technical bad trip. And that is because you're not in the right place, because you don't have what you need to feel safe. Now, when people say I had a bad trip, I didn't have a good time, it made me feel awkward, it made me feel fear or anything, that's most likely because there are things that you are needing to address, and those things just come up. The psychedelics bring out the things that are going on with you that you probably don't even address most of the time, actually. But they will bring those things out. And what a beautiful thought, what a beautiful thing to, it's like fixing something that's broken. Like once it's fixed, it's functioning properly, right? So psychedelics really brings out those things in your life that are essentially stopping you, blocking you, standing in your way, making you feel not good enough, making you feel afraid. They bring those to the surface and give you an opportunity to address them without the fear. Okay, so most people who say they have a bad trip, they only say they have a bad trip after they've come back from the experience, right? In that moment, they'll probably, the body and the mind is taking care of itself. It's a fully operational functioning system. It's taking care of itself. So if I go back to your question of safe space and loving space, right? I recently heard a story from a friend who was under the influence of psychedelics, and he didn't know how to get home because he was in a foreign place. He didn't have enough water. He was alone, right? These are not the kinds of situations that you want to be in when you're under the influence of psychedelics, right? You want to be loved and cared for. You want to have everything that you need to make yourself feel good. Music, water, a supportive person, a psychedelic interventionist, right? To be there with you along this journey. It's not necessarily something that I would recommend to do alone if it's your first time doing it, right? Because then it's going to leave that memory. I mean, I just said before how 18 years ago, those experiences are still with me today. Those bad trips will stick with people for years to come also. So for me, when I have the opportunities to have my psychedelic experiences, I always want to make sure that I feel happy, safe, warm, loved, and hydrated. And that I can tell you right now, every single experience I've ever had, I've always cried. I've always let go and I've always taken the deepest breaths of my life. And the reason why we do what we do at Evolving Temple is exactly that, is to facilitate this safe space, the preparation and the integration. Thanks.
Yeah, beautiful, Jess, beautiful. Thank you. And as you said, good and bad trips. I was listening to one of the TED Talks recently, and the presenter said there is no such a thing as a bad trip, but you can certainly reduce that the trauma that's coming up while you're going through that process if you have support. And Fernando confirms this, and with my personal experience, knowing that my therapist is right there, and then if something goes in that way, I know that just like that, he can bring me back, and that provides so much comfort, so much safety. And I think that is so important. So thank you so much for highlighting that. Truly very valuable. Now, this makes me ask you one last question. Now, as someone who has clearly just harnessed the power of psychedelics for your creative abilities, what would you like to share to anyone who is curious about the impact of this powerful medicine?
I would share that life is a very complex, layered, multifaceted experience that we are so blessed to be here for. You know, every time my birthday rolls around, I thank my mom for choosing to have me. And I also celebrate my birthday because I don't think that I chose to be here. She made the decision to go forward with the pregnancy, right? But I did not choose to be here, and I'm doing the very best that I can. And okay, I'll address the question in a moment. Thanks, Camilla. I would say that if anybody is curious to understand the impacts of it, like please explore all of the research also, and open your mind up to the possibilities of the impact of plant medicine. And I would like to address Camilla's question. She's asked, is there a reason why the moderator makes such a big emphasis on creative abilities? Camilla, I'm not sure if you are referencing the moderator as Lux or myself, but I will answer it like this. The work that I do personally is based around creativity, and that's why Lux is asking me about it specifically. But I will say, for anybody who's exploring their creativity as an artist or a designer or a photographer or a writer, or anybody who wants to elevate their creative mindset, this is one of the very powerful ways to do it. So I hope that answers the question a bit. But specifically to myself, I work with the creativity coaching and consulting, so that's why the conversation is kind of based on that today. And then finally, I would say there's always been a stigma around psychedelics, but it's because they are so powerful, right? They are controlled by governments and by groups of people, because they are so powerful. And like I said, this life is a very complex place. It's never going to be easy to be the best version of yourself. It does take work, but with plant medicine, it sort of like speeds up the process in a way, and really just opens up a lot of love and acceptance in your life. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess, for sharing your story, your experience with us. That being said, Fernando, over to you.
Thanks, Lux.
Thank you, Jess, for your sharing, and very inspiring, and also helps a lot of people who are interested in this experience to gain some insights based on your experiences. Thank you, especially as an individual who has done it for more than a decade. That's interesting. Actually, I would also like to tap into what Camilla asked, and would like to clarify it in a way like this. Now, when often we talk about psychedelics, I hear them being associated in three ways. Let's be very frank and open in this space. One, of course, them being illegal and the stigma that we are talking about. That's one of the things that we hear. And the second thing that we hear mostly about psychedelics is the recreational use of it. And then the third thing that we hear with psychedelics is often it being associated directly with therapy. And to me, I find that therapy is a safety blanket many people wear when they say that I am going through a psychedelic experience. And I also say that it's connected to the stigma that we experience, so that people would like to regard to it. I am in this space therapeutically, but we need to acknowledge the fact that therapeutic benefits of psychedelics is just only scratching the surface. Psychedelics is the Shangri that we are looking at, the state of being that we're talking about. So creativity is a major part of psychedelics influence that can create in our lives in terms of our development. So Camilla, thank you for that great question. Actually, that also opens up to share with all of you, those who are joining online and those who are also here. If you have had experiences with psychedelic therapy, also any other aspects that you were able to create development in your life, feel free to share your story with us. And we're even happy to invite you to these sessions if you like to be interviewed, because the more people share this message with the world, the more healing and development we can bring. So let's say that let's open our minds to all possibilities that psychedelics create holistically and address them in a safe space with keeping in mind harm reduction. Right. So thank you so much for the beautiful conversation, Lux and Jess. It was very inspiring. And today I would like to end this session by inviting our participants to share what is your key takeaway from this conversation, if you feel comfortable sharing with us. Over to you. Rico, would you like to share? Olga, Irene, Camilla?
Okay, I can share. Again, thank you for all of this. Just only that the journey to human being is magic, and there are always tools to go on and reveal miracles. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Rico, Olga, Camilla, would you like to share your insights?
I think
Yes,
what
actually, good day, everybody. Olga, do you want to go first? Please go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead. It's okay.
Camilla,
Olga,
you're already
okay.
Camilla, you're already unmuted. You go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to thank Jess for so openly sharing her experience with us. I think talking about her friend and her brother and going back to that time wasn't easy for her. So thank you for going to that vulnerable space and for being so honest and authentic. Yeah, actually, I love that you touched upon, the good trip versus bad trip, and that it's important to be in a supportive environment. So thank you for emphasizing that, because it indeed is so important, since psychedelics, they open you up to like a new reality, and you need for there to be someone to support you. So for me, that was a big reminder of the importance of that, and I want to thank you for emphasizing it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Camilla.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much, Camilla. I really appreciate your words. Thank you.
When Fernando asked about our takeaway for the night, immediately the smile of your brother just came up. How that smile was your anchor in hard times when, you know, it was difficult to deal with certain situations in your relationship with your brother, that you had that smile that was the anchor. So I think that is something, the most precious takeaway. And also it opened up a curiosity for me about the bad trip, staying with people for decades. So that is something to think about, and maybe, you know, to see how we can help to mitigate that as well. So that is another takeaway. But it was very encouraging to hear that the safe and loving space is the only thing that is needed. But obviously some people didn't have it, and so there are some other healing opportunities to deal with something that maybe wasn't so pleasant and is still impacting life, not in a nice way. So that's something that I wanted to share. Thank you so much for the circle. I got a lot of experiences and thoughts, and yeah, so I appreciate the sharing.
Thanks so much, Olga. I would just add one thing to that. No matter what, if there are things that we need to heal from and deal with, the ideal setting is to be in that safe, loving environment, so that you have the ability to address them. Right? Everybody is going to have a bad trip at some point or another. Like it does happen, only because of the thoughts. I'm not talking about the circumstantial stuff. It's the thoughts. It's the state of mind. And the best thing that we can do for yourself and for others is to educate everyone as much as possible on the importance of being in the right space and preparing for that, and preparing to integrate what you learned from that too. The closure that you receive from the integration process is essential to really maximizing what happens during the psychedelic experience. So, yeah.
I want to echo that. When I do my vitality coaching, I usually say, what is the mindset? In the end, it can be black and white, night and day. So to starve or to fast impact absolutely in opposite ways your body. You can really ruin your health with starvation, and you can really heal with fasting. And the only difference is your mindset. All the actions are the same.
Thank you, Olga. Great sharing. Very true, right? And like it also resonates with psychedelics. I think it's like a new space. Like ocean can kill, a knife can kill, starvation can kill. At the same time, they also can be extremely constructive and valuable. Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you. Rico?
Well, that was amazing. Actually, I've never tried psychedelics before, and today, like more than ever, I really want to try that. I want to experience what Jess has felt and went through and experienced. And Jess, I also want to say you're an amazing person. You know, most of the stories you shared were about the people you love, not yourself. Like you cared a lot about your friend, your brother, and this shows what a loving person you are. And you make me really want to be there. Like I felt I was there with you somehow. And although it was a bit scary for me at first, the idea itself, but now seeing people I know, people I trust, share this experience, I feel safe to do it myself. So thank you very much for the sharing. And thank you, Fernando, for the educational part in the beginning. It was very, very, very enlightening. And thank you, Lux, for moderating this. As usual, your presence is amazing. You just bring light to the place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rico. Jess and Lux, would you like to add your remarks, and then we say good night?
I just would say thank you, everybody, for listening. It's really it's really wonderful to be able to share the story behind it. I honestly, even though I felt like I had a calling, honestly, like even from the very first moment that I took it when I was 17 to now, it's always been like all of that has been drawing me to this point right now. And for some time, I never really pictured that I would be able to talk about this openly and to be in a place to help spread the awareness to other people and to instill the confidence that it is possible to use plant medicine for healing and for self-discovery. And I will end my comment by saying that I have created a very comfortable filter around me. You know, everybody, we're all human, we're all affected by the things that happen around us. But I see so much darkness and so much impact just from emotions that change on a regular basis, as Fernando explained. We get so stuck on these things. So I have built this kind of like very cushiony filter around me, and I feel like a superhero. I really do. I feel like a superhero. I feel unbreakable in the sense of like emotional, like, okay, it's just a matter of like dealing with things practically. Right? There are terrible, terrible things going on around the world. What can we do to be in a better position to contribute, to help, to support? And how do we take care of our minds in the process? And I can say with full confidence, part of the reason I've been able to take care of my mind and not allow anything through my filter that I don't need to. I get to choose what goes through my filter, right? It's because of my experience with psychedelics. So again, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for being here. And I can't wait to see everybody again.
Thank you, Fernando, for the education piece. Very valuable. And thank you, Jess, for sharing your experience, story. And thank you to everyone for being here and being with us.
Thank you. Now that Lux made the thanking remarks, I would invite you to a space of reflection. If you would like to continue, are you who you think you are? And love and light to all of you, and look forward to catching up with you on the Circle 4. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Good night.